Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Manas to Mamas. Woo! We're finally getting the hang of this thing. I hope that y'all have had a chance to check us out on YouTube. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties, but at least there's a video up now. So, with that,
Michelle came to the rescue.
it literally took me a long, long time to figure it out, but we did. And we are loving the fact that you guys are loving our stories. Well, so far, my story of, Lionel and the story of him. And so we just wanted to continue that. Today, we're going to be deep diving into the story of Mr. Zeke. So, Julie, take it away.
So, as I mentioned, my son's name is Ezekiel Robert, and he's in the background, causing a ruckus. So, if you hear him, he's fine. He's just thriving right now. He's gonna be 11 months already next week. He'll be 11 months on June 11th. And it's still mind blowing that I'm his mom and that he's actually here. I feel like I was born to be his mom. Like that is who I was meant to be. So with that being said, a little bit of how my pregnancy went, like finding out I was pregnant, telling people, uh, letting people know who the baby daddy was, and all that fun stuff and not so fun stuff. Okay, so as I mentioned, I think in our first episode, or maybe when we tried to film the one before this, the second one, and it was just garbage. So Michelle and I, fun fact, this is actually maybe like our seventh or eighth time recording because we're getting the hang of it. So I'm pretty sure in the first episode I talked about how I really wanted to be a mom at whatever cost that was, even if that meant going to a sperm bank and picking out a baby daddy that way. So, fast forward to like 2020 was a year of a lot of changes for everyone in my family, I think. Like, Michelle had a baby. My mom, I believe, sold her house that year. Like, it was just a lot. Like, I sold my condo. I bought a second house. Like, just thriving, thriving, thriving. And then fucking COVID, right? Excuse me. So, I kind of started talking to someone. And then that kind of led to something else. And then, I had been very open about me wanting to have children. And he does have two older kids. He has currently 16 and a half year old and a 19 and a half year old. So it was a big decision. Like, we had to talk about it a lot, because he was basically going to start all over. And he is older than I am. He is 13 years my senior. Um, but and I've had this conversation before with multiple people. Like, I don't think dating someone my age with all the shit that I've been through would make sense for me. Like, I just been through the fucking ringer a couple times, girl. So anyway, once we decided, all right, like we're gonna do the damn thing, we're gonna have a baby. Like I said before, I had to go to get a bunch of tests done, different lab work, make sure everything was functioning. Stop eating certain things, start introducing new things to my diet, and he did a couple changes too. And then I actually remember November 9th, 2021. I woke up and I am not one to miss work. Like, right now, obviously I'm not working because I'm taking care of my son, but like, I am not one to like I don't like to miss work. I feel like, have you seen that thing on Instagram where it's like, it feels illegal not going or calling in sick when you're actually sick? Like, that was me. So anyway, that morning I remember, like, we woke up and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go to work, and I was like, all right, have a good day. I was like, I don't feel good. Like, I'm gonna just call off of work. And he's like, whoa, like, what you mean you're not gonna go to work, girl? And I was like, no, like, I don't know. Like, I just don't feel good. I think I'm gonna get my period. Like, I just have, like, I'm gonna just call off. So I called off of work, and very serious, like, I will never forget the look on his face. He kissed me goodbye, and he was like at the door. He turns around and he says, I think you're pregnant. And I'm like, you're fucking stupid. Like, no, I'm not pregnant. I'm gonna get my period. Like, you're dumb. He's like, no, like, I honestly feel like you're pregnant. Like, you just have this thing about you. You're pregnant. So, why don't you go take a test? And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, he gets up pretty early. Like his day starts between 4 and 5 in the morning almost every day, sometimes at 3 in the morning. So I was like, bro, just leave. Like, bye. Boy, bye. I'm gonna go back to bed. Like, I don't feel good. So I called off of work and I like took a nap. And then I remember like I woke up and I went to Target. Or no, he ended up sending me like a DoorDash Target Instacart thing, like I think it's Target same day shit, whatever it's called, a pregnancy test. And like it got there, and I was like, dude, you're dumb. Like you are completely losing it. So like I got up, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get my period. Like I had some pretty bad cramps, and I just felt like weird. Like I felt off, but I had finally like I was doing a bunch of other changes to like my diet and like vitamins and stuff that I didn't think like, oh, I'm pregnant. Plus, my birthday was 4 days before, and your girl got shmammered. Like that's the last time I got fucking shmammered at the bowling alley. Like, no, that Julie is long gone because I'm actually 150 days alcohol sober. Like not that I'm like trying to not drink, but I just don't want. First off, I can't imagine being hungover with Ezekiel. Like he is too fucking demanding, and he is up and ready to go, and I don't want to feel like shit. Like I don't want to be that example, just laying on the couch vegging. If you do that, by all means, do you. But I just can't. So anyway, I never will forget the last time I actually got shit faced drunk was on my birthday. um, so I was like, you're dumb, whatever. So he called me like closer to 1, and he's like, did you see what I got you? And I was like, oh yeah, like I'll pee on it later. He's like, no, pee on it right now. He's like, I gotta go. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. So like, I was like, just gonna be negative. Like, I'm gonna fucking get my period. Like when you're going to the bathroom every time and you're like waiting to see like period blood or spotting, and I'm like, oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. That thing never came. So I peed on the stick, and I will never forget. That second line came up almost immediately. And I remember like I closed it, I put it on the counter, I finished peeing, I like, washed up, and I just left it on the counter and I walked away. And I like my house was kind of long. So I got like probably like 3/4 of the way to the front door. And then like that's when it clicked, like, holy fuck, it's positive. And I like darted back to the bathroom that was at the other end of the house. And I looked at it and I just started fucking shaking. Like I was like, oh my God. So of course called him and I'm like, I took it, and he's like, what's up? I was like, well, it's positive. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, you know what? Let me call you right back. Like, I have a client that's about to walk up to the house. I'll call you right back. And I was like, all right. So I like let that moment digest for a little bit. I did experience a loss in 2019, I believe, and it was a pretty substantial loss. There's more about it on my blog. I don't know if we're ever going to do like a episode of, like about miscarriages and stuff on the podcast, just because it's kind of hard to talk about. So I think that's why I was so like shocked, and I didn't really want to believe that the second line was there. If if you've had a loss, and you know that pregnancy after loss is extremely like traumatic, to say the least. So anyway, shortly after he called back, and he's like, "Oh my God, how do you feel? Do you need anything? All the things." And I was like, "No, like I'm fine. I'll see you when you get home from work." And he's like, "All right, like I'm gonna leave early, whatever." So then, of course, the very next phone call was a FaceTime to Michelle. And I tried really hard to like not make it about me because it was their wedding anniversary. So I tried really hard. I was like, "Oh, like happy anniversary. What are you guys doing?" And then she was talking. She's like, "Nothing. Like the kid, I think Leo was sleeping or he wasn't there." And she was still pregnant with Diego Lorenz. And then I just blurted it out. Like I was like, "Actually, I was like, I have a present for you, but I'm gonna just show you what it is." And she's like, "Okay." And I showed her the test, and she's like, "What is it?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm pregnant." And like we both started crying almost immediately. I was like, "You can't tell anyone." She's like, "Okay, but what about Michael?" Because he was like home that day in the other room. And I was like, "Okay, tell him." So she like ran and told him, and then he's like, "Congratulations." So besides, my partner, they were the first to know that I was pregnant. So I could then call the doctor, and I'm like, this is my last period, but I don't know because
Not me getting
I
teary-eyed already.
my period was like it was still kind of trying to regulate after being pulled off of like completely pulled off of all birth control and stuff. And again, like I was prepping my body before. with like all kinds of shit. So it was still like new. So I called the doctor and I was like, I peed on a stick. It's positive, and it was my same doctor because my doctor that I've had, like my primary care doctor, she's a family doctor. She's OB, like delivery, everything. So I called her office, but she's pretty booked up because she is partially retired. Um, so they're like, oh, you can see the nurse practitioner on such date, and I was like, okay. And mind you, like me, my mom, and my sisters really don't have like a lot of secrets amongst each other. I think me and Michelle are more open about damn near everything just because we are kind of living in the same season of life. So it was really hard for me to like not tell my mom right away. And we had like this whole like I went and got my I went to the doc to see the nurse practitioner. They ordered my blood work. They did a pee test in the office, and they're like, "Yep, you indeed are pregnant." And I was like, "Well, I don't know really like when I got pregnant. Like I don't. My last cycle was on this day, but it was just a really weird one. Like it was really short. I had a lot of really intense cramping." So I don't know if it was implantation bleeding or what it was. She was like, okay, well, we'll just schedule you for a scanning ultrasound. I was like, all right. Excuse me, sir. So then it was the week of Thanksgiving, and we suffered a pretty big unexpected loss. I think that we went into how the families know each other and like how we're related. But basically, like his cousin is my mom's cousin, but they're not cousins. And this particular cousin, who we love, 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 his name is Uncle Bob. He unexpectedly passed away, and it was extremely rough. I got the phone call. I'll never forget. At like 6:30 in the morning. And they were calling me to ask me to tell my family so that we could communicate to my grandmother, who kind of helped raise him. Like all, back then, all the kids kind of grew up together, and they all kind of watched and raised all the kids. Yeah. So prior to this, we had this whole elaborate, really cute way of announcing that I was pregnant. It was going to be on Christmas. We were going to get something for my grandparents, something for my mom, and something for Alyssa. And then Leo Matthew, who I would always call Titi's baby, was going to have a onesie that was going to say, my Titi's having a baby, with Titi's baby like really big. We had it like all planned out. We had already like sketched out the onesie. We're like, okay, my mom's going to get she doesn't drink coffee, so we were gonna get her like a water cup, and like we had all these things, right? Like of how you were gonna announce to them that I was pregnant on Christmas, because that's when I was gonna be around 12 weeks. But the universe decided that Ezekiel Robert couldn't be a secret for that long. So I called my sister Michelle. I think I called Michelle first. Told her. She's like, "Oh, my mom's not here. She's at home. Should we go over there?" And I'm like, "No, because they want my grandma to go like back the other way, to like closer to where Michelle lives, like on the other side." Michelle was like the halfway point between where Uncle Bob's parents lived and then where my mom lived, and they wanted my grandma to go with her brother because she was having a really hard time, obviously, right? So I remember I FaceTime my mom, and I was talking to my grandma, and like, had to kind of tell her, and she was having a really rough time with it. And as she's older, she's kind of more aggressive, would you say, towards herself?
Yeah.
She doesn't like that she can't do what she used to do. So she gets really frustrated with herself. And I will never forget, she was like, "Oh, it should have been me. He was so young. He has a grandbaby. His family needs him." Um, and then she proceeded to start smacking herself in the head. And that was really hard for me to watch. Being so far, seeing her hurting so badly, and not physically being able to be there and like hold her and tell her it was okay. So my cousin lives with my mom, and she's not like, she's obviously bigger than my grandma. My grandma's really frail right now. We just weighed her. She was 122 pounds. Like she's this tiny thing. And I remember my cousin kind of put her arms around my grandmother to stop her from hitting herself. And I kept on saying, like, no, 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 like, I need you, I need you, I need you. She's like, yeah, but I'm already old, and what did she say? What is her saying? Like, soy puros huesos y pellejo, este pinche cuero, no lo necesita. Like, she was going through it. So then I fucking just blurted it out. I was like, no, grandma, like, yo te necesito porque estoy embarazada. And she was like, and my cousin's like, what? And then she's like, Fina, escuchó lo que dijo la Julie? And she's like, what? So I told her, I was like, no, like, I need you more now than ever because I'm pregnant. And then the tears kind of changed from like grieving tears to happy tears. But they were tears nonetheless. And then my grandpa was there. He was trying to keep my grandma calm. And it was just like, that wasn't the way that I wanted to distribute such positive, wonderful news. But in that moment, like we needed a little ray of sunshine because it was just a lot. It was a very heavy day. So then I was like, okay, so I text Michelle and I'm like, well, I had to tell grandma because all of this happened. And Alyssa and my mom were in the shower and I was like, well, shoot, I need to tell them too. So I asked my cousin to take the phone up into the bathroom. And by that time, Alyssa had gone out of the shower. When I was like, hey, Alyssa, like, you know how you're always like, always bitching and complaining that you want to have a human niece or nephew from me because my little dog is my little baby girlfriend. Uh, like, yeah, I'm like, well, I'm pregnant. She's like, oh my God, congratulations. And I was like, okay, go take the phone to mom now. So I took the phone to mom, and my mom was in her bathroom, like in her towel, her hair was up there, and I was like, so I'm pregnant. And she's like, oh my God. So like, at least for a brief minute or two, there was a little bit of happiness on that Saturday morning. But we opted to not tell anyone else. Like no one else knew. I had really early pregnancy bloat. Like there's pictures of me early pregnant and I already kind of had like the bulge, but it wasn't necessarily a bump. It was just the pregnancy bloat. So I would say like, luckily for me, it was like fall, winter. So it was easy for me to like hide it, with my sweaters and my, like at work, my blouses, my blazers, it was pretty easy to kind of keep it under wraps. So then, we had to go to LA very quickly, like fly down to LA for the services and then fly back. So the flight back, like after the services, it was primarily our family on the flight, like the family that lives up north where I live. Um, and I remember, like, it was the first flight out in the morning. So I think I left my sister's house maybe at like 4:30 in the morning, pulled up to the airport, like saw literally all the people, including my now partner there, had to keep it casual.
Because at this point,
And
we still
meanwhile,
didn't know who.
no, at this point, no one knew who it was. People knew that it was like the chiflador, but they didn't know who the chiflador was. As the song whistles in the background. Um, So, meanwhile, he's texting me like, are you okay? Do you need anything? He pulled up to the airport. Everything is closed. And I was like, no, mom, like, I'm not going to get food. Like, we're already running late. It's going to be a quick flight. So I'll just like get something as soon as I land. And she's like, okay, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, it's totally fine. Like, let's just go because you're going to be late. Sure enough, we pull up to the airport, go through TSA, and the airport was small. We flew out of Burbank, California. So the airport's pretty small. TSA is easy to go through. And again, like, it was all family on that flight. Like, he was on the flight with his kid, with his two older kids, my aunt, my uncle, my goddaughter, my cousin, his wife, his son. Like, everyone was on this fucking flight. And the flight was pretty empty. So we pull up, and, like, the plane gets there, and it's kind of, like, windy and overcast. And, okay, like, we're delayed. And I was like, all right, cool. Then they're like, okay, we're back on schedule. Go ahead and get on the flight. All right, so we loaded up on the plane. The plane was super empty, so like I asked if I could move because I was sitting in the back. And like, yeah, she moved me, so she moved me up to the front, and I was like sitting in the row in front of my cousin, his wife, and his son. And he tells Gloria, he tells Gloria like, Gloria, why don't you sit with us so you guys can catch up? Okay, so I actually struggle with morning sickness. Not the actual vomiting, but like the dry heaving and the desire to throw up if I did not eat every like 4.5 hours. If I pushed it to 5, like your girl was gagging and dry heaving, and it was really gross. And he actually would experience that same too. He would text me and be like, are you throwing up? Because I just threw up. I'm super sick. Like, so he had those, like, what is it? Sympathy,
Symptom.
not craving, sympathy symptoms, which I thought was kind of cute. But anyway, so I'm sitting there on the plane. I think we were supposed to leave like at 7. Girl, the flight did not take off till 9:30. We're stuck on the plane. There's no snacks. It's COVID, right? So they're not giving anything out. Not even fucking water. And I am trying really hard to keep it together and not throw up or not start to dry heave in front of my family because they don't know I'm pregnant. And it was honestly like, it felt like the longest flight of my life. And I was like, I wasn't hungry, but I knew I needed to eat something to stop like that nastiness. Ugh, bleh. And then a week later, I flew back down because then it was Leo's birthday / baptism. And then, everyone's like, oh, Julie, here's a beer. Here's the, and I was like, oh, thanks. Like, thanks. And I would like take it and go to the bathroom or like go put it down somewhere, throw it out, give it to my cuñado because he knew I was pregnant. Give it to my sister, my other sister. What do you want? So that was like, I think that was kind of the hardest part about the beginning, like keeping it under wraps. And because of what I had gone through previously, like I wanted to wait to kind of announce when I was pregnant. So then Christmas morning, I believe, I took a picture. I don't know if you guys can see it. So it's like little Ellie and me on my couch and a onesie. And that was how the world knew that there was a little baby in my belly. Yeah. So yeah, Christmas morning, people woke up and found out that I was pregnant. Yay! Merry Christmas to me. Mind you, at this point, still no one knew who it was, who was the baby daddy. It was a big secret. And then, so I stayed here for Christmas, obviously. Just kind of chilled at home. A very COVID Christmas. Just hung out at home. Didn't do much of anything because I had gone for the funeral and then for like back-to-back weekend. And then we had a couple of appointments. We got to hear the baby or see the baby's heartbeat like on the screen. And I damn near lost it because it's the same ultrasound room that I went into with my previous pregnancy when they told me there wasn't a heartbeat. So I had a lot of mixed feelings going into that room. But then when we saw it flickering on the screen, like there was a little jelly bean. It was a moment in my life where I can replay it over and over and over again. And I remember after the appointment, we walked out of there with picture, like, little, he looked like freaking jelly bean, literally. And I remember I got to the house and I walked into my bedroom and I called my sisters and I was like, we have a freaking heartbeat. And I lost it. I sat on the foot of the bed, just completely like thankful and in disbelief that the baby was in my belly thriving. So then, of course, we started looking at all of like, is it a boy? Is it a girl? All of the like, if it's above, what is it? 170, it's a girl. If it's, if it's laying like this, if it's attached this way. And I did the early blood test. I just say it was a boy, but the doctor she told me not to be 100% on that because of the amount of my DNA or whatever the hell. So I did have to get a new OB. I forgot to say that. I had to get a new OB because my doctor, who is amazing, informed me that she was going to stop doing OB that year. So I was like, great, of course. Now that I'm pregnant, I need to go find a whole new doctor. So luckily for me, one of my really good friends up here, her name is Irene. Hi, Irene. She is exactly 4.5 weeks ahead of me in pregnancy. So her son is born June 8th, and then Ezekiel's born July 11th. Also with a boy, we have the same insurance, we work at the same place. So her friend works for this medical group and gave us a rundown of the good doctors. And luckily for me, Dr. Natasha Kale, here in Sonoma County, she's amazing. She's really, really sweet, really cares about you and what you want. And she happens to also be the director of high risk OB. So what better hands to be in than hers. So in January, though, I did come down with COVID and I was a mess. I automatically started panicking. I think we've talked about before, when you find out you're pregnant, you do everything you possibly can from that moment. When those 2 lines come up, like you do everything you can to protect this itty bitty poppy seed that's in your belly. And I remember I was just so upset. I was so upset that I got COVID. I do work with the public. I do work in the public sector. And unfortunately, we were not able to close our doors because of the services that we provide. And I had front to face-to-face contact. So it could have been from work. It could have been from the grocery store. It could have been from literally anywhere. And Omar's had COVID like 5 or 6 times. So he's like, whatever. So I text him. He's like, whatever. I'm still coming over. I'm going to take care of you. I was like, all right, cool. And COVID itself wasn't too bad. Like, it was just like a really bad, like, it felt like a really bad, like, cold. I did have like the cough. The worst part though is I lost my taste and smell. So I was finally coming out of the first trimester. The dry heaving, the morning sickness had kind of subsided. So then now, of course, I wanted all the things, right? I wanted a burger. I wanted what is it? Chicken Caesar salad, like wrap with, just all the stuff. Didn't taste like anything. Like, that was the saddest part, I think, of my pregnancy, that I would crave all these things and I would get them, but then I'd get so mad because they literally did not taste like anything. And I remember like calling myself crying, like, I just want to eat this, but it doesn't taste like anything. She's like, just eat it. I'm like, but you don't understand, because now it doesn't taste like anything. So now I don't, it's like, me da asco porque no sabe nada. And it's not that I was asqueada from the pregnancy. I was just like, this isn't what it's supposed to be. Like, it doesn't taste like an In-N-Out burger. It just fucking tastes like nothing. So, and that, I think my taste buds didn't come back for like 2 or 3 weeks. So that was rough. Like, that was a rough point in my pregnancy for sure. But again, if that was like the only down sad part of the entire thing, like, I'll take it. So then people still didn't know who baby daddy was. And then as we got closer, I think to February, we finally started telling like my mom, my sisters who he was, and they're like, what do you mean it's him? Because they've known him forever. And then like things got a little bit, like, I would say, like, easier, because what would happen is we would strategically post stories on Instagram before they knew it was him. I think we've said it before, like his elbow, his shoe, not his shoe, his foot, his pinky. And then it just became like a game. But now we were able to, like, they would call and he'd be able to say hi instead of just whistling in the background or meowing like a cat or whatever. So people obviously found out it was him. People were happy. They were like, okay, well, yay, at least we know who he is. Like, he's not some complete fucking stranger that we're like, who the fuck is he, Then I don't think that episode went up yet, but on March 31st of 2022, I got diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and it was really hard on me. It was, I was a complete fucking mess that day. I went in the morning, got my labs, and that night I got the results. And of course, the doctor's office is closed already. I have all these questions. No one can answer them. I do what you're not supposed to do, which is go on Google and Pinterest. And then I just start spiraling like bad. So yeah, I did like all the things you're not supposed to do. And then it got to the point that I remember he came over that day after work, and I was like, I think you should go home. Like, I'm having a really rough day. You're telling me not to worry about it, that it's gonna be fine, but how do you know? Like, I was just irritable. I was in a mood. So I was like, you know what? I want to be myself. So he left, and I just stayed home and literally cried myself to sleep that day, because it was just like, I don't eat like shit. So why am I now diabetic? Like, we don't know anyone in our immediate family that's diabetic. And just having the like title or diagnosis was like, oh my God, like, I'm diabetic. I had to poke myself. I fucking don't like needles. I had to poke myself at least 3 times a day and log it. I had to log everything that I ate and I drank. I had a nutritionist. I had a diabetes team. I had all the things. So luckily, I didn't gain a lot of weight in my pregnancy. I gained like 25 pounds. I think that last week I gained an extra couple pounds in water weight, but it was like hardly anything. And Ezekiel got monitored extra. So that, I guess, is a good thing. He got monitored extra, like, to make sure he was growing correctly and not growing too fast. And like, I did not know this, but apparently if your baby, which makes sense now, like, duh, right? If your baby is measuring too big, and there's like a certain like sweet spot of a ratio, like a certain ratio that they want, the head, the shoulders, and I think the belly, like when they do their scans, right, give or take a couple of millimeters, they want it to be in a certain ratio to ensure, or to not to ensure, to limit the possibility of the baby getting stuck when he's coming out, if he's coming out vaginally. So we got a couple of extra ultrasounds. They confirmed that he was a boy, that he was thriving in there. Last Mother's Day last year, actually, we opted to do a 3D 4D scan, and it was kind of nice because my grandparents were here, so they were able to go see that. And he was a lazy bud. He was sleeping, so I had to like drink cold water, eat a candy, do yoga, like try to get him moving. And luckily, we got him moving for a little bit. He had a habit of having his hands up to his face, and even now, like when he's really tired or not feeling well, his hands automatically go up to his face, and I think it's the cutest thing ever. Um, so then fast forward, they're like, okay, we're not gonna let you go over 40 weeks because it wasn't so much my gestational diabetes, but it was that my placenta was starting to basically it was starting to die off. So we were scheduled an induction to enter the hospital on Sunday night, July 10th. And that week before, we did all the things. We swore he was coming on July 5th, which is also Uncle Bob's birthday. So there was a lot of like pressure for him to come that day, but he just wasn't ready. He wanted his own day. Um, and Michelle, I think, drove up that day because that morning she called me and I was in the thick of it. Like I was getting contractions. My back was hurting. I was just not feeling well. I had started to lose my plug like in like pieces, but it wasn't completely out. My water didn't break or anything like that. So Michelle, my mom, loaded up and drove up earlier than expected. Just to be here just in case. Because like if this is go time, like Michelle's gonna be in that room. Regardless of what if she needs to catch a flight, she's catching a fucking flight. But she's gonna be in the room. What do you want?
And like for the record, because at this point we knew it was like an induction. I knew I was going. I just didn't know what was gonna happen to like my boys. I didn't know if I had to fly. Obviously, like I mean, I could, but I didn't want to, pack up the boys and then go and then figure out like, okay, now I have to find an Uber who will take car seats. Like, I didn't know how I was getting there. I didn't know what was gonna happen to my boys. Like, I remember she was like, we could have my aunt and my, grandma's here, but then my coworkers can come while like help grandma out. Like, it was just so much was in the air, but all I knew was like going, whether it's me driving by myself up north with my boys. If I have to stop every many hours, like I'm getting there one way or another.
And like it was really special. Like till this day, like I am very grateful that she was able to be in that room with me. And experience that with me. Like I wish that, like I think I said it before, like I wish that I could have been that there for her like that, but it was COVID, so like there was literally no way I could be there. And it's something that I don't like necessarily regret it, but I wish that we could do it over now, and I could be there for her.
Mm.
But they're done having kids, so that ship has sailed. At least biological children, that ship has sailed. So the week before, like we did all the things. We did the walking, we did the curb stepping, we went and bought raspberry red leaf tea, we ate spicy food, like I bounced on the ball, like literally every single moment that I was sitting on my big ball, trying to get this baby to like push on my cervix, start opening it. Because I don't know anyone that's openly said that they've been induced, but from all of like the literature and stuff that I read, supposedly when you get induced, it's more painful. Who knows, right? I don't have anything to compare it to. Michelle wasn't induced. Her labors were pretty quickly, so I was like, I don't know. But it was just like, get this baby out. I don't want to go through induction, right? So that Friday, we were just at the house, just kind of hanging out. And I was talking, and then out of nowhere, so at this point, Leo is a year and a half old. Mm-hmm. He's laying on the couch watching, he's watching TV, right? And we're just kind of bullshitting, playing loteria. Like I'm kind of hanging out, bouncing on my ball, drinking water. My mom is there, my suegra's there, my grandparents are there, Michelle and the kids are there, Omar. Like we're just kind of all just, bullshitting, whatever. And then Leo's like starting to fall asleep, and then he legit like takes the bottle out of his mouth and pops up and he says, the baby's coming. And then he puts the bottle back in his mouth and like lays down and goes to sleep. But he said it fucking clear. Like everyone was like, what?
And
like, what did you say?
And for the record, like he was already a little bit older by that time. So like even to this day, he starts talking and people are like, wait, Michelle, what did he say? And as a mom, like if you're with your kids all day, they say gibberish, and you're like, yeah, he's telling you that he wants a, bacon egg sandwich, extra chips, and like you just know. And the fact that I heard it, I always hear him speak, and I wait for someone else to like acknowledge it. So I heard it, and I was like, I know he said that. And then when Julie looked at me and told me, like, did he just say that? I was like, okay, I know for a fact that
And then my mom heard it,
he
like
really
my
did.
swag, everyone heard it because he said it clear. Like I swear, for those like 3 seconds, like there was no noise in my house.
Like,
He just took the bottle out of his mouth and said, "The baby's coming." Put the bottle back in, laid down, and knocked out. And we're like, "What the fuck?" And literally within like 10 or 15 minutes, I looked at Michelle and I said, "I'm either peeing myself or my water's breaking." So they picked me up. We walked into the bathroom. I sat on the toilet. Michelle came in. And I was like, I'm not peeing. Like, I'm not forcing anything to come out, but I'm just dripping. So then, like, we get up. I put a panty liner on. I'm like, Michelle, is this water? Is this pee? She's like, I don't know. Like, my water didn't break till I got to the hospital. So I don't really know. But, we call the number. They do the questions. And, I just put a pad on and I keep bouncing on the ball and drinking water. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like, like, we may be having a baby. Like, we may be going to the hospital. So I'm like, oh my God, I was like, oh my God, he's gonna be here. We start to freak out. Luckily, the bags are already packed. Everything goes into the car. The doctor comes and says, it sounds like it's a textbook water breaking. So why don't you go ahead and come on in and we'll get you checked out. Like, I'll go ahead and call them, let them know that, you're ready. And then depending on what they say, I'll meet you there or I'll see you in the morning. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, we are on the way to have a baby.
It's baby
So
time.
luckily at this time, like Diego's asleep and Leo's asleep, so Michelle has no problem like leaving with us. So the three of us, load up into the car and we're like, oh my God, like this was already like 10:30 at night, like it's late on Friday night.
And it was so weird because obviously I had Leo and Diego by this time. So like I'm getting nervous, but I already know kind of like, the steps as to what's to come. Like, we're going to get chicken. They're going to put an IV. They're going to, like in my brain, I'm like, okay, with Leo, and I'm getting nervous and I'm like, snap out of it. You're supposed to be her support. Like, you can't be nervous. But then at the same time, like, I don't have anyone besides my husband. Like, I didn't have a support person to be able to be like, oh well, I like that they did this for me, or I didn't like that they did that for me. So I also went in blind because I'm like, I'm over here supposed to support her, and yes, I know what she's like I went through, but like this could be completely different. So in the back of the car, like Julie's getting ready to have a baby, but I'm also trying to talk myself through to like, you're gonna be a good support person. Like, I was
She's her
nervous.
own hype woman
Yeah.
too. And then like my two, I guess, stepkids, half kids, my stepkids, they were born through C-section. So this was Omar's first vaginal delivery. And I believe they were both scheduled. I believe it. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, we pull up, we go through all the things, ring the button. Oh yeah, we're waiting for you. Like that day, they said they didn't have anyone in labor that day.
Tampoco.
So literally, like all the nurses were just kind of hanging out. We're like just bullshitting and talking and laughing. And they're like, oh my God, if you're really in labor, like you could stay like this all day. Like the party's here. So they come in, they check me. They're like, okay, it's gonna be like 30 minutes or so for us to get the test back to see if it's amniotic fluid that if your water actually broke. And I was like, all right, cool. So we're just bullshitting and like literally like dancing in the room, just talking shit. The nurses come in and they're just having a big ass party. Then they tell me I just peed myself. It was not amniotic fluid. My water did not break. So it was time to go home. So we packed up the party and we went home. And I think we picked up In-N-Out that night because it was late. Where I live, everything closes fairly early, and In-N-Out was the only thing that was open and the only thing that I can eat because I was still diabetic and they didn't want me to like balloon up really big or have to pack on weight towards the end. So they got like a lettuce wrap burger and like a diet lemonade. Like that was my dinner. And there's a picture on my phone of the three of us eating in my room at like 1 a.m, just chowing down on In-N-Out. So then that was Friday night into Saturday. Then Saturday, Sunday, we kind of just hung out at home, took it easy. Sunday, we had a barbecue at the house. It was, it was his it was due date because I was due on the 10th. He was not coming though, so we packed up and we headed to the hospital. Of course, we had to stop at Walmart on the way there. I'm like, dude, we're supposed to be at the hospital at 8 o'clock. And he said, "Antoja parar en la Walmart ahorita? Tenías like you had literally all this time, and you want to go to Walmart right now, right now." So Michelle and I waited in the parking lot while he ran in to get like some shorts and like some slippers or something for the hospital. He was a nervous wreck too, even though like he really won't say anything. Like he was nervous. You know, a baby's being born.
Yeah.
Delivery is a really big medical procedure. Like whether you deliver vaginally or via C-section, it is a major. Your body goes through a major medical procedure. Right? Either you're cut fucking open for the baby to come out, or you're pushing out a baby and the placenta. Which, by the way, I didn't realize that you delivered two things until I started volunteering at the hospital. I thought it was just one. But when I was at the hospital and I had to explain to him, like, I have to deliver two things. He's like, there's twins. I said, no, you deliver the baby and then then your placenta. So, because I did want to get my placenta encapsulated. Michelle did it. She loved it, recommended it to me. So I found someone here.
Shout out Miss Random for telling me about it.
We had all of these, like my birth plan. Michelle had it. He had it. The doctor had it. The hospital had it. I had all these things I wanted to do. And then I remember they like put in the tape thing. My water broke at like 3:30, like 3:30. They confirmed that it was indeed my water that broke. I remember I got up because I had to go to the bathroom, and then like I woke up and I got out of bed, and Michelle kind of woke up. She's like, "What's going on?" And I like got up, and it was kind of like that. I will say it was kind of like a movie. Yeah. Like it literally was just like, shh, and I was like, I think my water broke, or I peed myself again. Ha 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 ha. And then of course, like everyone, like he woke up, Michelle woke up, the lights went on, the nurses came in. Yeah, they pushed buttons, and I'm just sitting there, like I'm standing at the edge, like on the side of the bed, with like my gown up because it's soaked, and I'm just fucking dripping water. Like my water fucking broke, and I was like, oh my god. So they come in, they do the testing, they take it to the lab, they come back and they're like, yep, your water broke. So now you're officially, I guess, in active labor at that point when your water breaks. Is that what it's called?
No,
so we were just chilling. They had me. You're in labor. Yeah, you're in labor. So I was just chilling on the monitor, watching the baby, whatever, trying to get some rest when I could. But then shit got real quick. So I did not necessarily have a no epidural plan, but I didn't want to jump to the epidural first. Like I had a certain way to kind of scale it. And the hospital was really good about that because they were also like, look, if we give you the epidural now, you can't walk, you can't stand out of bed, and you can't eat, and you haven't had anything to eat since last night.
And with her gestational diabetes, her not eating was still like that was their main concern.
And like my eating was like I had to still eat to keep my sugars in order because they're like, if your sugars are not good when you deliver, like you may need to take insulin, or the baby may need insulin. So there was like a lot riding on me eating. So I was like, oh my god, like shit got really real fast. What's going on? Hold on. You're almost boring my story, dude.
He's excited for the anticipation. He's like, Mom, tell me what comes next.
So we did the gas. That did absolutely nothing for me. I can't even snorkel because as soon as the mask hits my face, I start to panic. And it was the same fucking thing with that laughing gas thing. Like, it literally did nothing. I remember Michelle telling me, like, you need to put it on and breathe. And I was like, I can't breathe with it on. Like, Omar and I were dancing and swaying because that felt good. But I couldn't catch a break. Like, when I tell you that I could not catch a break in between contractions, I literally could not. Like, it would stop. I would take a deep breath, and then I could already feel like that feeling of like, here comes another one. Like it's gonna come, and like Omar would dash across the room to like hold me and sway with me and whatever, like put pressure on my back, and then Michelle was like, rub her back. Do you need anything? Then I opted to do the like IV medication, and that was like, I did not prepare to do, like, I didn't do any fucking research on the fentanyl IV pain medication. So when they're like, oh, it's fentanyl, like, when you hear fentanyl, you think you're going to fucking overdose and die. So I was like, no, I don't want that. They're like, that's like the only thing that we could give you that's in the IV form and that won't impact the baby. And I was like, but it's fucking fentanyl. And I'm like, yeah, Omar, like, I don't want that. And then, but he's like, but you need rest. Like, you're not catching any fucking breaks. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. Like, I was scared to take that medication. But I took it anyway because, whatever. And they're like, oh, that should give her like at least 2 hours of like calm. That shit gave me 35 minutes. And I was like, nope, this isn't working. I need me an epidural and I need it now. So they're like, okay, but you need to eat something. So they like tried to order me like an omelet. That should smell disgusting. Then I had packed like protein shakes. So Michelle, I was like, just give me a protein shake, like it's at least something, So I like drank it, and then I was getting a contraction, and I wanted to labor on all fours. So I was like straddling the bed, kind of. And then Michelle was chewing juicy fruit. Till this day, I cannot stand the smell of juicy fruit. Michelle had put this stick of juicy fruit in her mouth, and they were both like, Omar was up one side, and she was up the other side. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Throw that away. And she's like, the quickest, like, boop, trash. The gum was trash. Like, I don't even know why. And then I fucking threw up. So that's when I think Michelle whispered to me, like, you're transitioning. You're almost there. And I was like, oh my God. And by this time, like, they had come in to check me, but I opted to have minimal cervix checks. Because that was still part of my plan. Like, I wanted to deliver the baby. I wanted skin. I wanted the golden hour. I wanted to lay forward clamping. I wanted all these things, right? I wanted skin to skin with him. I wanted Omar to hold him for a little bit, like all these things. So then Michelle looked at me and Omar looked at me and they said, "Do you think it's time for the epidural?" And I said, "You know what? Yes," because I knew that if I didn't get it, I was going to be too exhausted when it came to pushing. Because, like, literally, they would last between 30 to 90 seconds, and I would probably get, like, a minute in between. Like, they were coming hot. And I remember the doctor, when she came in to check me, she's like, oh, my gosh, I did not think that we would be pushing by 3 o'clock, but it's 2:45. Let's do the damn thing. Like, your body really responded to that. Like, as soon as your water broke and you started the Pitocin, like, they had to stop the Pitocin because then his heartbeat kept spiking and then it would drop. So then that was concerning. Okay. Then he like fell off the heart monitor. So we had to put like this probe on his head. And Omar was freaking the fuck out. I was freaking the hell. Like, I looked at Michelle. Michelle was like the saving grace. She was like the level headed in there, which is what I needed.
You're during labor. Born, Ezekiel. Hold on.
We're almost there. Almost here. But yeah, she was like the level-headed one, and she's what I needed in that room at that time. And I'm really glad that she was there for that reason, because they're like, he keeps falling off the monitor, so we're not like, we need to be able to monitor him.
The importance of him being on that monitor was because, like she had mentioned, his heart rate was either like skyrocketing or it would go super low. And the doctor and the nurses were like, we don't know if it's because like the monitor can't catch him, that it's reading, like misreading everything, or if in reality, like, is it catching him?
There's something
like, is it catching him when his heart is super high or his heart's super low? When in that case, like, they have to make moves instantly. So that was
at that point, it became a medical decision. So then she came in, she's like, okay, let's go ahead and do some practice pushes, right? So by this time, my stepson was in the room, but he was kind of off in the corner. And Omar was at my side, and he's like, okay. So she positions him to like hold my leg or whatever. And I'm on my side because they wanted the baby in a certain position. Like, it was just kind of chaotic at that point, right? So we put my leg up on the side. I'm like sideways, put my leg up because I was adamant that I didn't want to push on my back because I was very terrified of fucking up my tailbone. I have a really fucked up like tailbone area, so I was really scared to like mess it up because one of my really good friends in Nebraska, Liz, she like the baby fucked her tailbone. Like, it was completely fucked up. She had to go to physical therapy for months. Like, the baby's now 2 or 3, and she's still dealing with some of the issues she has based on her delivery. So I was terrified. So, she's like, hey, we're going to do some practices. So she, he's there, we're counting, I'm pushing. He was like, okay, you did great. And I was like, all right, cool. So then he puts my leg down and goes to walk away. And she's this little petite thing. she like grabs him and she's like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought we were just practicing. What are we doing?" She's like, "We're having a baby. It's go time." And he's like, "Oh, fuck." So that was, I think, pretty funny. That I remember, like, clear as day. That he was like, "We're just practicing." And she's like, "Where are you going? You're not going anywhere, Dad." And he was like, "Uh-oh," because again, his two other boys were born via C-section. So this was his first time actually, like, holding the legs and pushing and counting and coaching. So I pushed and pushed and pushed. And then I started pushing at like 2:45, and Ezekiel was born at 4:15. So I remember I started to kind of panic when I noticed that the doctor was kind of inquieta. Like, she never panicked. She never never hesitated, never had me feeling like she was scared. But I could tell she was kind of inquieta because she would just keep looking at the monitor and looking at the monitor and trying to rearrange the probe and looking at the monitor. So that's when I was like, I remember Omar looking at me, he's like, "Look, tienes que sacar. Like, it's go time. Get him out." And I was like, "Okay." And I would push and push and push. And till this day, I would say maybe about 2 or 3 times a week, I go back through my camera roll because Michelle was able to record the moment that he was born. We had an issue. I think, you want to tell them what the nurse was telling you?
Oh, so we couldn't record, but I was like, I'm here for a reason. I don't care. If I get kicked out, like, so be it. At the camera, and obviously, like, I was pretending to be taking pictures because the doctor saw me taking pictures. Yeah, she's like, just make sure they're pictures, no videos, please. And I'm like, oh, of course, doctor. And I'm like, loser, I've been recording for the past, like, 45. And in that moment,
Yeah, there's literally like clips of me pushing. There's like maybe 55 clips because Michelle would record every single push. It's like, I wasn't sure if that was going to be the push, so I would record every single one.
so it just so happened to be that, like, a nurse who I didn't even see her come in. She like went right behind me and obviously saw that I was recording. So I quickly got out and then opened the camera and I started doing that. And I was like, "Oh no, they're just video. I mean, they're just pictures. Like, there's no video." And she's like, "Mm." And then she like tells the doctor, and I had taken like hella pictures. So I'm like, "Oh no, there's no videos. There's just pictures. I don't know what you're talking about." And then she was like, "Oh, okay." So she just kept like looking
She
over.
wasn't even minors.
I don't know what she
Yeah,
was.
she wasn't minors. So because of the heart rate, and then like I spiked a fever the last 15 minutes of labor, so they're like, "Shit, she's getting an infection." Like, it was just chaotic towards the end. It felt like there was literally 1,000 people in that room. Oh wait, back to the epidural. The most important, like, what the fuck part. So I'm getting the epidural. The guy comes in. He's like chilling, and I was like, "No, your mom and your sister can hold you." So like I'm hunched over, right? He already sterilizes my back. He's getting ready to put the medication. Then he says, "Oh, ha ha ha, I forgot the medicine. I'll be right back." And I remember I looked at Michelle and out loud, I was like, "Are you fucking kidding? Hurry up." And then right then and there, mid contraction, he pushed the test medication to make sure that the placing was correct. And Michelle says that my body just kind of relaxed at that point. So then I was able to get some sleep, woke up at 2:45, doctor came in, checked me, it was go time. So now back to where we're at. So I'm pushing and pushing and pushing, and then like literally there comes a moment where you're like, "I can't fucking do this." And right when you say that, like it's go time. And then they had me like, it kind of looks like a dog toy, like it's two circles that you to help you push in the right place. So like you kind of like your legs are up, and I was on my back, unfortunately, but whatever, it is what it is. That was the safest position to monitor his heart, and at that point, that's what that mattered. Like making sure that he was on the monitor correctly. Um, so it's kind of like a dog toy,
Yeah.
right? It's like two circles like this. You hold on one end, and the nurse pulls on the other, and you kind of like pull yourself up to make that like esfuerzo in the right area to help you have this baby. So we were using that. They had to use the vacuum, but it popped off twice. Mm-hmm. And then I remember, like, I was already towards the end, and I'm like, "Can you just put the vacuum again? Like, I can't do it by myself." And she looked at me dead in the eye, Dr. Kale, and she said, "I know you can do it. You have to do it. And if for some reason you can't, we're going into the OR. They're already prepping the OR for you because we need to get him out." So then, like, and then it was fucking go time. Like, they're like, "Okay, up and push." And Omar's talking to me, right? He's at my bedside. And he's like, "Come on, babe. Like, push, push, push." I can see his head. And Michelle in the background, like, "He's right there." Like, the ultimate hype girl was Michelle. Like, I can see his head. She was like, "Come on, Mama, you got this." And I was like, out of all the chaos, like, in those, like, 15 seconds, the only thing that I remember is hearing Michelle's voice saying, come on, you got this. Keep going. I can see he's right there, Julie. He's right there. He's right there. And then Omar looking at me like, get him out, get him out, get him out, get him out. That's it. Like the 1,000 people that I think are in the room are completely gone. It's just me. It's me. It's Omar, and it's Michelle's voice. It's not even Michelle. Like everything else is completely blacked out. No fucking clue. So I remember que me sentí rendida, and I like went like this, and on top it wasn't a mirror. It was like a glass, like the light glass, the hospital glass that's over the light, and I was able to see what was going on. And I saw him, and I was like, oh my, like he's right there. So with everything that I had, I was like, I can't, because they're like, push 1, 2, 3, 4, push, and they let me take a break, and I was like, no, I can't, like I have to get him out. So I was like, I have to push. So I pushed, and he was out, but then he didn't cry, and that was the scariest part of the whole thing. When you watch on YouTube or see movies or hear, someone's birth story, they always say that first cry it's magical. It's after so much exhaustion, it's the sweetest sound that you could hear. So he's out, and they tell me that he's out, but there's no noise, there's nothing. And it was really scary. It felt like an eternity. It felt literally like, what's going on? Why is there no noise? The room got dead quiet. No one said absolutely anything. And then, missed all this. Omar's here saying we did it. He's here. And I just see the doctor cut and take. They didn't show him to me. They didn't put him on my chest. She cut his cord and took him to the incubator. And that was hard. It was hard because it's not how I imagined it going, right? You imagine that he's gonna be born and he's gonna cry and they're gonna put him on your chest and you're gonna have that, like, that moment, right? That moment that you can't get back. No matter, it was still magical when I heard him cry, but it was just really hard because here I am, right? I'm still up in stirrups. They're still, delivering my placenta, and I can't see what's going on. But the urgency that she cut the cord and took him, it really freaked me the fuck out because why isn't my newborn crying? What's wrong with him? Is he okay? Why isn't he crying? I remember I kept asking Michelle and Omar, like, why isn't he crying? I probably literally asked that like 100 times in those like 5-10 seconds. Like, I don't hear him. Why isn't he crying? Michelle, is he okay? Is he okay? Is he okay? I don't hear him. And when you put that along with his heart going up and down, and they're prepping the OR, like the worst thing came to my mind, that I finally was able to not only get pregnant and stay pregnant, but now that I'm delivered, I'm going to suffer another loss. And I mean, it lasted for literally a split second. Michelle said it was probably like 15 seconds tops. But they had a whole NICU team there, and they got him crying, and he sounded like a little cat. To this day, whenever he cries, they call him Gatito. And they brought him to me and put him on my chest. And I remember when they brought him to me, right, he was already kind of all cleaned up and like in a blanket. Mm-hmm. And they brought him to me, and I'm still in stirrups. And this moment is also captured on camera, so thank you. They're like, do you want to hold, or do you want to meet him? And I was like, yeah. So they brought him to me, and I was just so overcome with emotion that I closed my eyes. Like, I went like this, and I just started to feel, I lost it. I started crying, and they put him on me, and it was euphoric. It was, there's not words to describe what that moment felt like. I wish it could have been done the way I wanted to, the way I had planned to, but Ezekiel had the cord wrapped around his neck 3 times. And the pressure of pushing and the contractions were putting pressure on the cord. It was causing the heart to skyrocket and then plummet, and skyrocket and plummet. And then I ran a fever, so they were worried that there was a little bit of poop in the bag. So it was just, at the end of the day, we had a healthy baby. He was there. He was alert. He was super alert as soon as he was born. And once they got him up and crying and stuff, he lashed right away. And then I think once my mom and Michelle saw that everything was fine, they left and just gave that time to me, Omar, Dominic, and Ezekiel. Marcus was in the military. He's in the military, so he wasn't able to be here for the birth. But I think it was really nice of my sister and my mom to give us that moment. And then, they moved me over to recovery. I was able to actually have a meal. Thank you, baby Jesus. That was like not having to worry about my carbs. So I ate. They gave us like a chocolate and like some apple cider or whatever. And then we kind of just hung out in recovery. Then, like, he was going to get circumcised. That's the choice that we made. But the morning of, I asked his doctor about his heart rate because they kept saying that it was really high. And she's like, wait, what? No one's told me. So that was kind of like, what do you mean no one's told you? So that's when we went to the NICU. We were in the NICU overnight, and that was also hard. Like, just having to say, like, he had to go to the NICU because they couldn't figure out why his heart rate. So his heart rate was basically the highest heart rate that was reported was 108 beats per minute, which is really high. And they would keep checking it because they're like, no, that's his respiratory rate. And they're like, no, like that's his heart rate. So his heart rate was just it was just going. And they couldn't figure out why it was so rapid and why his breathing was so rapid. Like they just couldn't figure it out. So he went to the NICU luckily it was just a night, but it was hard. Like it was hard to see him with all these things. Like they had to put an IV just in case he needed it. And he's this little itty bitty. He was 6 pounds 8 ounces. Like he was this tiny itty bitty thing. He like his little fingers. They had like all of like the wrinkles because his fat hadn't came in yet. And he had like a splint with a little IV put in, and it was just. And he was connected to all these machines. And in the NICU, I couldn't have my whole support team there. I could only have one other person with me at any time. So Omar had to tag out with my sister so she could come, so he can go like have a shower and eat. And I had like already used all the days that I was able to have, so I was technically discharged, but the baby wasn't. I didn't go home though. I stayed there. I like slept on a chair, cot, whatever, and Omar slept in the utility van outside. Like he didn't want to leave. So that was like hard, but luckily the next day they checked him all out and he's ready to go home. So he came home. Michelle picked us up, like, come bust us out of the NICU, Titi. She came, picked us up, brought us home. And it was also nice to have like my mom, my grandparents, and Michelle there. Michelle was there just for a couple of days after I gave birth, and then my mom, my grandparents were there for like the rest of July. And that was nice because even like that first day coming home to shower was magical. Like I showered the day I delivered, but there's something about showering in your own place with like your full size products, your shower, like the water pressure the way you like it, the temperature the way you like it, your fluffy towels, your robes, like it's just isn't compared to a hospital shower. And like I took a nap, and like when I was napping, they took all these pictures of the boys and like a little cousins crew, like onesie. They were all kind of matching, and those were really cute pictures. So we got like a lot of pictures of the three of them, and my grandparents, and my mom, and Michelle, and the baby, and it was great. It was fantastic. But then they went home, and that's when I was like, holy fuck, I'm here by myself with a newborn. Because, he's self-employed, so he has to go to work. Like, he doesn't get paternal paid time. And I remember, like, the day they left, I was like, can you watch him for a sec? Like, I just need a minute. And I just cried in the bathroom. Not because I was like, oh my God. Not because I was, like, depressed. It's more like I was, like, scared. Like, my mom is gone. I didn't have to worry about making meals because my grandma and mom would make sure that I was eating. Right. And that was like all on me. Like, and then I started pumping right away. So they would also help feed sometimes so I can sleep or shower or eat. But it's like, oh my God, I'm by myself. Like, I'm by myself here with the baby. I think I was more worried about making sure I remember to eat. Because there was times I'd call my mom, like, I haven't ate anything. She's like, well, you need to eat. Like, no va a llorar sangre. Like, go eat, go take a shower. Like, little things like that. But then, like, that probably lasted like a day or two. Then I got into the swing of a hang of things, and we were good to go. We were golden. But yeah, Ezekiel Robert, he was born on July 11th, weighing 6 pounds, 8 ounces. They did measure him incorrectly though, because when we took him to his first like appointment the next day, because he was born on Monday, we got discharged on Thursday, and he saw his doctor on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was like a 3 inch discrepancy between the length on like at delivery that was recorded and the length in the hospital. So he didn't grow 3 inches in like a week. It's just the doctor says they probably measured him incorrectly. So we're gonna go with 6 pounds, 8 ounces, and 19 inches long. That's how big my baby was. He didn't even look like a gestational diabetes baby. All the doctors were pleasantly surprised with his weight and his size. And yeah, when he came home, he actually came home and we had to go get him preemie clothes because he didn't even fit in newborn. He was this tiny, skinny little thing. And yeah, guys, that's the story of Ezekiel Robert. Pregnancy, delivery, there were some, scary points, but I had an amazing support team. I would not necessarily change a single part of my support team. My mom showed up, so she had stayed with the babies, with Michelle's kids, Sunday night, and then she came over. Like Michelle went home to take a shower Monday in the morning, and then she brought my mom back. So Omar never left the hospital. He was with me the entire time. But my mom and Michelle, she had to go check on her kids. She had to go feed Diego. Like, she had to go be a mom too. So, but it was just nice that they were all there when I actually delivered this child. But yeah, children are a blessing. Like I said before, I was born to be his mother. I am blessed every single day. I don't take any moment for granted.
You guys enjoyed a little bit of Zeke's story. We wanted to kind of change it up and give you guys a break from my voice because all of the last podcast was just me. But up next we'll be doing Diego's story. But another episode, another small business shout out. This one goes out to Miss Cici. You can find her at Cia's Creations. So she does custom tumblers. We will link again her Instagram page here for you guys. But this is one of the tumblers we have that I ordered from her. We are big Potterheads here, so my husband and I saw it, and I was like, I need this now. But if you guys are familiar, it's the little map of Harry Potter that shows everyone's place in the castle, and so she put it on a tumbler, and then we had her write our last name on it. So this was like Michael's water cup when he was working, and now it's just mine or his, whatever it is. But this cup is very special to us because we got a matching tumbler for Leo's Nina. When we asked Jesus to be his godmother, we actually got her a cup also. And she's also a teacher, so we wanted to give her like a little teacher appreciation slash just a gift to help her days go smoother. And we went out to go eat, and I put in the order, so we ordered one of these for us and one for her. And so every time I see it, it's a little, special piece to our hearts, knowing that she accepted to be Leo's Nina. But yes, she does everything and anything. Honestly, she's always putting stuff on there. They have pop-up shops. So please, 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 go visit her page. Once again, I know I say this every shout out we do, but even if you go visit her page, honestly, that traction, once again, it means the world to small businesses. Like most of our small business shout outs that we've done so far, with the exception of Benzo Brows, Cici also does this as a side hustle. So, her creative, self, comes up with these designs and brings them to life, puts them up, and you can message her on there. See if she can do what you guys want. I know she made this really cool mushroom one where it was like a 3D thing, and oh, it's so beautiful. She recently did one of calaveras and like conchas, and I'm like, I need that in my life. But yeah, we've ordered from her. She just message her, pick her brain as to like what she can do, because honestly, like this is it's huge. Like this is my head, and like this is the cup. And it comes with a straw and everything. But honestly, Cici is very talented.
And you could be like extra like that, or like you could be basic like Alyssa.
Yeah.
She wanted just a purple one with her name and like really tiny, like thin script.
Mhm.
So you could be extra and fancy and 3D work. She does with clay. She did a really cool popcorn one, and the top is looks like popped popcorn on top of like a old school pinstripe popcorn container. So yeah, my little, she's fucking amazing. Check her out for all your tumbler needs. She does phenomenal work. I'm like, dude, how? How does your brain function like that? Because
Yeah.
chef's kiss.